All right, please start heading to your seats. Wanted to give a couple more minutes. We wanted to give some time because of the rain and a lot of people were late. Okay, we're gonna give Chris 2 minutes because he wants to keep you all waiting while he does something. Okay, Chris is ready to go, so we're gonna go now. Let's everyone can everyone give Chris a hand for working us into his day? All right. Thank you. I'd like to welcome everyone and convene this meeting, and I'll call upon RPT Chaplain Jeremy Story to deliver the invocation.
All righty. Let's take a moment to acknowledge the Lord before we enter into a day of discussion, debate. We take a moment to pause our words to hear your words. Give us your ideas today, your thoughts. Father, across the country, we face things that we know that are not in agreement with your ideas. And so, Lord, give us strength as a party and as individuals to stand strong for truth and righteousness in our country. Lord, I pray for the blessing of each of these SREC members, for Matt and for Dana and for others, Lord, that your peace would be over their families, their jobs, their ideas, their thoughts, that you'd guide us together. Lord, as we even have differences of opinions, would you lead us unto your truth in each situation? We ask you for peace even in the midst of discussion. We ask you for your righteousness in the midst of debate. We ask you for direction when we don't know what to do. And we ask you for courage to stand for all the things you call us to stand for, Father. We pray this in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Can't read it's like scribbled. Sorry, it was scribbled handwriting. Rhonda, I've asked Rhonda, is it Marquardt? Marquardt, okay, to lead us in the national anthem.
It's my honor to do this. This is not a solo, but it is an honor to sing the national anthem. And I'd like you to remember what this represents in our country. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets spread glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave for the land of the free and the home of the brave.
I'll call upon Tony Trevino to lead us in the pledge to the United States flag.
Please join me in the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I've asked David Wiley to lead us in singing Texas, Our Texas.
Thank you. Loud and proud, folks. Texas, our Texas, all hail the mighty state. Texas, our Texas, so wonderful, so great. Boldest and grandest, withstanding every test. Oh, empire wide and glorious, you stand supremely blessed. God bless you, Texas, and keep you brave and strong, as you may grow in power and worth throughout the ages long. Thank you.
Call upon Maggie Witt to lead us in the pledge to the Texas flag.
No, that's okay. Chair, yeah, maybe. Still, hello, can you see me? Can you see me now? One comment. It's one state under God. There is no comma there. God is not a separate thought. All right. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible. Yeehaw!
I appoint Chuck Burnett, Leslie Thomas, and Ken Moore to serve on the proxy committee, with Chuck Burnett serving as chairman of the committee. And I'll call upon Secretary Virgil Cruz for the roll call.
Good morning, members. And before we get started, as you guys know, you passed a Rule 42, or you didn't pass Rule 42. You passed a bylaw that enacted Rule 42 and a standing rule that said that the secretary would keep records of those disclosures. So you are getting, in a second, a form that is being passed out, and it takes all of 60 seconds to do it. I promise you it's not difficult. As the George Strait song goes, check yes or no. So actually it's circle yes or no, but you get the point. So please fill it out. If you're a proxy, you don't need to fill it out. Any questions on that? Okay. Roll call. State Chairman Matt Rinaldi. State Vice Chair Dr. Dana Myers. Secretary Virgil Cruz, I'm here. Treasurer Fred Tate. General Counsel Rachel Hooper. Parliamentarian Stephen Bolin. Sergeant at Arms Dr. John Spires. Chaplain Jeremy Story. Finance Chair Senator Mays Middleton. National Committeeman Dr. Robin Armstrong. National Committeewoman Tony Ann DeShiel. From the SDs, Kristen Bentley. Donnie Weisenbaker. Jerry Fisher. Bruce Bishop. Rhonda Ward. Chris Bro. Gwen Withrow. Dale Inman. Susan Lucas. Joe Miller representing Bill Fairbrother. Don McDonald. Scott Bowen. Deborah Feit. Tom Nobis. Maggie Witt. Jim Pickle. Ann Gephardt. Dan Tully. Susan Wright. Susan Wright for Matt Tiskus. Galen Devine. Ken Moore. David Wiley. Dr. Melinda Morris. Dale Gibble. Jan Duncan. Fernando Trevino. Yeah, that was confusing, right? SD14, always keeping it real. Gail Stanart. Rolando Garcia. Susan Fountain. Matt Patrick. Becky Green. Roman Klein. Cheryl Thompson Draper. Howard Barker. Rhonda Marquardt for Kelly Perry. Robert Casillas. Adrian Pena-Garza for Melissa Nur. Chuck Burnett. Tony Trevino. Mike Monreal. Leslie Thomas. Leslie Thomas for John Carr. Elaine Cook, Ed Zenner, Mary Jane Avery, Andy Eller, Naomi Narvaez, Chris Bird, Karen Marshall, Kiko Canseco, Morgan Graham, Carmen Calderon, represented by Janera Lewis, Linda Hogue, Steve Evans, Robin Cooper, Adolfo Tejas, Rachel Horton. We'll check on Britton Brooks in 10 seconds here. Tisha Crow. And if y'all will indulge me, I'm going to refresh my email and see if Britton has sent a proxy in the last 2 minutes. Britton Brooks. Okay, when we get a proxy, we'll deal with it. Thank you, Mr. Chair. You do have a quorum.
Quorum being determined, I call the meeting to order. I'd like to recognize Scott Bowen for a resolution on Jill Glover.
Mr. Chairman, on behalf of the Resolutions Committee, I move that we adopt the resolution honoring Jill Glover.
It is moved that the SREC adopt a resolution in honor of our late colleague Jill Glover. We'll read the resolution aloud. Resolution honoring Jill Diane Warrington Glover. Whereas Jill Diane Warrington was born in Palestine, Texas on April 10th, 1960 to Nancy and Forrest Warrington. And Jill was a professed follower of her Lord, whereas Jill was a professed follower of her Lord and Savior Jesus Christ with an unfeigned and unshakable faith.
Whereas Jill was beloved of her husband Curtis Glover and their son Nicholas, whom she supported wholeheartedly and of whom she was so proud of, and
whereas Jill was blessed with a multitude of talents, dancer, poet, pianist, radio DJ, lover of horses and music, and
Whereas Jill graduated from Stephen F. Austin State University with a master's degree in psychology, worked with Texas State Mental Health Services in Longview before running her private practice in Dallas, where she specialized in helping women with eating disorders and abuse trauma. And she also shared her love of psychology as a professor at Dallas County Community College and as a part-time teacher at Cornell Academy. This is not in here, but for those who know Jill, when I was upset, I would call her, and because someone got mad at me, she goes, "Jerry, that's another badge of honor." So remember that if you do the right thing and someone gets mad, you've got a badge of honor that Jill's got.
Whereas Jill was a passionate grassroots conservative in the Republican Party and especially dedicated to protecting the children of Texas, and
I just want to say I just really love Jill. She was meant the world to me. Whereas Jill was elected to the State Republican Executive Committee, SREC, from Senate District 12 in 2019 and honorably served with grace and tenacity until her passing, and
whereas, while on the SREC, Jill was appointed chairman of the Legislative Priorities Committee and was instrumental in forming the committee and its subcommittees to connect and energize conservative activists across Texas. And
Whereas Jill worked tirelessly with the Republican Party leaders, state legislators, grassroots activists to draft legislation, advocated for bills supporting the legislative priorities of the Republican Party of Texas, and testified at the state capitol to advance that legislation, and
whereas Jill valiantly fought for the successful passage of Senate Bill 14 in the 88th regular session, the bill relating to prohibitions on the provision to certain children of procedures and treatments for gender transitioning, gender reassignment, or gender dysphoria, and on the use of public money or public assistance to provide those procedures and treatments. And
whereas the Republican Party of Texas lost our brave colleague and dear friend, Jill Diane Warrington Glover, on January 14th, 2024. Now,
therefore, be it resolved that the State Republican Executive Committee recognizes the significant contributions of Jill Diane Warrington Glover to the Republican Party of Texas, to Denton County, to the state of Texas, and to the children of Texas. And
Jill was anointed to represent and fight for Texas up until the very end when she could no longer text because her condition wouldn't allow her to use her hands. She had somebody text for her. So she was our blessing. So, okay. Be it further resolved that Jill Glover was a hero in times where heroes are hard to find, whose passion and relentless fight for righteousness will continue to inspire the Republican Party of Texas immeasurably. A leader among leaders upon whom conservatives around Texas came to rely, and a true friend who trained, guided, and encouraged as she served. And
be it further resolved that the Republican Party of Texas expresses our deepest condolences to Jill's husband, Curtis Glover, son, Nicholas Glover, their entire family, and to Jill's beloved friends throughout our state. What a privilege it was to know her and work with her. And
be it finally resolved that Jill's absence will be profoundly felt by her SREC colleagues, and that we will never forget Jill's wisdom, ardent encouragement, peaceful demeanor during her illness, and steadfast witness to her faith in Jesus Christ.
from Psalm 73:26. My flesh and my heart may fail, but God is the strength of my heart and my portion forever.
We'll now vote on the resolution in honor of our late colleague, Jill Glover. We need to do a roll call vote for resolution. Will? Yeah. If there's no objection, we'll adopt the resolution in honor of our late colleague, Jill Glover, by unanimous consent. Hearing none, the resolution passes and the resolution's adopted. Sorry, I'm hardly at a loss for words, but my brain was foggy through all of that because I'm still processing it. The first item on the agenda is reading and approval of the minutes If there's no objection, we'll dispense with the reading of the minutes. As you know, we have two vacancies in the SREC, Committee Woman for SD 12 and Committee Man for SD 31. We will now have elections to fill those vacancies. Yes, Mr. Evans.
Check. Mr. Chairman, Steve Evans, SD 28. I have two motions. I move to conduct our elections by adopting the following supplemental rules. Election number one. Do you have them up for the screen, Virgil? Or do you want me to read them? Same ones last time. While you're doing that, election shall be conducted one at a time. Election order will be the order of the vacancies. The vacancies were recorded by the secretary. Number two, nominations shall be made by an SREC member from the floor. Number three, after nominations have been made, the nominee shall draw numbered lots to determine speaking order. Each nominee shall have a total of 3 minutes to speak, including those who wish to speak on behalf of the nominee. Voting. Number four, after all nomination speeches have concluded, voting shall be conducted by a secret paper ballot. A majority vote is required for election. The chairman will appoint 5 members of the SREC to distribute, collect, and tally the ballots. Each candidate may appoint 1 observer to observe the counting of the ballots. In the event no nominee receives a majority vote on the first ballot, repeated balloting will occur until a majority vote is achieved. Uncontested races shall be declared by acclamation after nominations close for that seat.
If there's no objection, we'll adopt the standing rules for the for SREC debate. Is there any objection? Hearing none, it is adopted.
Mr. Chairman, while I'm here, I move governing debate today, a maximum of 3 speakers for, 3 speakers opposed, and a speaking time of 3 minutes each.
Is there any objection? Hearing none, it is adopted. We'll start by electing a new committee woman for SD 12 to fill the vacancy. Are there any nominations from the floor?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
David Wiley, SD 12. I rise to nominate the person who was with Jill as she first came to us about 5 years ago when she replaced our lovely Debbie Terry, and was with Jill and Debbie as they went through what they went through, and then again was with Jill as she went through her own time. And one of the final commitments I made to Jill was that I would stand and nominate Lisa Hendrickson to fill her vacancy. And
Lisa Hendrickson has been nominated for SD 12 committee woman.
Thank you.
Are there any other nominations?
Mr. Chairman, we second.
Second by Chris and Ann. Any other nominations from the floor? Seeing none, all those in favor of Lisa Hendrickson as SD 12 committee woman, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. Lisa Hendrickson has been elected as SD 12 committee woman. Congratulations. You can take your seat. Next, we will elect a new committee man for SD 31 to fill the vacancy. Are there any nominations from the floor?
Tisha Crow, SD 31. I would like to nominate Kelly Giles to fill the seat, my counterpart, SD 31 man. He is a county chair in the Amarillo area, and I communicate with him often, and he will be an asset to this party.
Kelly Giles has been nominated for SD 31 committee man.
And Mr. Chairman, I second that nomination.
Seconded by Andy. Are there any other nominations? Seeing none, we'll now vote. All those in favor of Kelly Giles as SD 31 committee man, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, the ayes have it. Kelly Giles has been elected as SD 31 committee man. Please take your seat. We'll start our meeting with the reports of our officers. I'll call upon Fred Tate to provide the report of the treasurer.
If y'all are ready, we'll try to collect those.
Sorry, there's a little technical issues.
Feel the time.
Well, good morning, everybody. I'll start with a reminder about how I deliver reports to everybody here, especially for new people. When I talk about numbers, I always talk about month-end numbers, which doesn't always line up with public reporting schedules. But we do that from an audit perspective. That's how you reconcile bank accounts. Other things that we'll talk about and I'll get into with cash balances is our party runs on a 2-year cycle. So you see money go up and down. And so we have to think about the party in a 2-year cycle and where we are with an even year. So we're in an election year. And so I always try to report month-end numbers. And we are not fully closed for the month of January yet. So while I do have a lot of January stuff, like the Google Sheet didn't get updated yet, that's kind of a final step. So we're partially there for January. Okay. So if you could flip to the third slide. So our reporting schedule, we've got a robust reporting schedule this year because we're in an election. Yeah, no problem. All right, so we have a robust reporting schedule this year, so we're going to have to file more reports than we did last year, and in particular, there'll be some odd filing of the federal reports around the general election coming up later this year instead of just the normal once a month. The schedule will change. On the state account side, we deemed that we didn't have any expenses that dealt with the election of the primary, so we didn't have to file a state report. We will have to file a corporate report later this month, which is required. Moving on. So one of the things I've done is put in cash balances from our competition, from the Democrats, and our party continues to show higher cash balances than the Democrats, but they certainly spend a lot of money and raise a lot of money. They just don't keep it. They also edit and amend their reports a lot too. You should sign up for their list. You'll get emails. It'll be shocking about how many mistakes they make and how much they have to edit. So, and then on the state side, the equivalent is still the same. We have more cash in the bank than they do. It's a little bit different when it comes to rate side, because as you know, there's a $10,000 contribution limit on the FEC side, and money trickles down into our state account. So moving on to our budget, this is for full year last year. So this is the report last year. This is consistent with what we have been reporting all year, that we've one category is way above on its budget expectations. All the others are dragging a little bit. But the party also spends less money than it's budgeted. If you could flip to the next slide, please. So we make up a lot of the gap. So the variance against budget is diminished by the amount of money that we save. And so it's nice to see that the current executive director is following the same trend as the last executive director, being fiscally responsible. So moving on, this is just kind of a bar chart of where the money comes from. Obviously the party, most of its contributions in the recent years and the recent cycle post-COVID has been from major donors. Moving on. So this is the full P&L. You should look at it in your packet, which I believe James has posted to everybody now. You can see it. This is the full P&L for the party month to month. This is clearly not going to be visible on the slide. Things to note, this is everything, right? All wrapped in together for the party, which means that includes primary dollars. And as you all know, most of you, when I talk about cash on hand, I generally, because it's not our money, we only get to keep it to the extent that we spend money on the primary. And so there is going to be some weird credits in there for the last 2 months of last year, which are just the collection of the primary fees. That'll eventually be mostly escheated to the Secretary of State. So now this is a different way to think about the P&L for the party. This shows you the party activities based off of department, right? You can see that not only did we start to spend a little bit of money on convention, we raised money at the end of last year, and that's contributed to the positive cash position we have. We've spent money on election integrity. We've received almost $200,000 from a Protect the House program that was formally set up by Speaker McCarthy, and that's basically victory money, right? That's the $199,000. And then you've got Victory Federal and Victory State in there, and this is all the parties' revenue generated, less expenses, and how it contributed to the party. If you could flip to the next slide. One of the things I wanted to point out, so this is the P&L for January. The party generated a significant amount of excess cash during the month of January. A lot of that is victory derived. It is not primary derived. Flipping down to the next slide. You'll notice that it's since Matt has been chairman, which is basically June 30th on an official basis. It was like July 11th was the election. And so this is as close as you can get for public. This is the public reporting numbers. What you can see, the red line represents what I define as political funds, which means your federal money and the GPAC money that's with the TEC. And the blue bar is our corporate money, which is money that can only be spent on overhead purchases. You can see the red line of the average of the political dollars goes up and down, but the trend average over time is nearly flat for the party. So we ride a wave, but it averages over time. And this is a pretty long sample of data. And to be clear, these are the numbers that are reported in our ethics reports with the FEC and the TEC. And the reason I mention that is the TEC has some weird guidelines about reporting cash on hand. We're supposed to report what is showing on the bank balance on the bank statement, not necessarily what our ledger balance is, which means money in transit doesn't often get reported in that cash number, which creates a little deviation from the accounting records that we've talked about in the past. So if you flip to the next slide, this is for informational purposes only. This is the map out. You can pull these numbers straight off the internet. That's the data that makes up that prior chart, right, for each of the accounts. This is just the reported cash on hand numbers over time. It's in your packet. You can scroll down, and then we get into our cash reports. If you can, my presentation is a little bit longer since we're dealing with the year end and starting into 24. So if you can scroll down, this is the final, right there, sorry, scroll up. This is the final cash report for 2023, right? And one of the things that you should review that I think is powerful going into an election year, the number all the way at the bottom on the right side that says $666,391. That's how much cash the party in political funds increased over the last calendar year. So we ended the year, scroll down, keep going. 1.2 million, and then let's go to January. These are just graphs of the same numbers, right? These are the fund totals within the cash report of where we keep money. Keep going. And then all the way down to the bottom, right there, right? So we started with 1.2 in January. We ended with 1.6 million, an increase of 352,000 of cash. And again, primarily this is victory money we're going to spend on the election. So, and it's a good job because participating in the Ted Cruz waterfall is where a lot of this money is coming from, because it's part of the plan. So that ends my report. Any questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you. And Fred, I'll add, I apologize, I didn't have you put this in your report too. We just learned also that CFS was paying upfront our primary funds from our federal account. So then they reimburse after the primary filing period is over. They have not reimbursed yet as of that report. So therefore they will be in the next week or so transferring $64,000 from our primary funds into our federal account. So I know, sorry. You could do it again, everyone will forget. So
I always exclude that because it's such a minor amount. Like it's less than 10% of the primary. I just exclude it. It does come in, it's a reimbursement of the legal office expenses. Sure.
yeah. Before I go to the general counsel report, if there's no objection, I inadvertently skipped Chuck Burnett's moment of glory in the proxy committee report. Chuck, make it the best proxy committee report ever.
Chuck Burnett, SD20, after consulting with our outstanding secretary before the meeting, and just now it appears that all of our proxies are in order.
We call upon Rachel Hooper to present the report of the general counsel.
Yes, that's okay. Somebody have a motion. Okay. Does someone have a motion